Ho, 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 niggas. It's that time of year again where your boy Old Saint Nicholas is back to bring you some premium Christmas content. And as you can see, your boy's got some new headphones. You know, I'm back at the old setup where I've got the mic and the camera positioned kind of in this layout here in my room. Your boy's been gone for a while, but it's finally time to bring back some of that premium Christmas content, hopefully to you around the holiday season. So for the last time this year, let's get it. First off, we have the Game Awards, which of course I'll cover in full detail. The 10th annual Game Awards, and hold up real quick because I know at least one of you is thinking, didn't I call it the 10th annual Game Awards last year? I could have sworn it was, but I guess I was incorrect. This year's 10th annual Game Awards kicked off with the opening ceremony where they started the presentation with a very clean introduction to the new Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. We got to see a full animated opening for the game where we got to see some classic ninja action. This time, we're breaking away from some of the 3D stuff to bring it back old school, back to the good old days on the Sega Genesis, where the pixel art looks clean and the action is fast-paced. This is going to be one of those games that OG Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, Metroid, and even Mega Man fans will probably find enjoyable. And to top it off, you niggas only gotta wait until the summer of this coming year. We hope to see some updates soon. From there, they instantly went on to showcase the best fighting game of the year, which went with overwhelming support to Tekken 8. Harada himself even stepped up on the stage and flexed his little bit of English to show his thanks to the entire fighting community. He also dropped a little extra at the end, basically telling us fans not to ask him to add specific characters, which I know a lot of us have been bugging him about adding a certain someone from Final Fantasy. More on that later. Then we got hit with a brand new cozy game. Cozy games have been the genre of the year. Everywhere you see, indie game developers have been making it a trend to create cozy games. Everything from Shim to Tiny Glade. And this one's no exception. We got the announcement of One Move Away, a cute little game where you simply pack your shit and move out. This one's for those of us with OCD out here who love a nice, neat, tightly packed car. The game currently has a sign-up sheet for the demo on Steam. Also, that's something to keep in mind. Steam is getting a lot of attention because of the Game Awards this year. If you haven't asked already, a Steam Deck might be the thing to get with all of those gift cards that you're probably going to receive this year. Immediately after, we got a D&D simulator. I know Dungeons & Dragons has really been hitting home with video games recently, especially with Dragon Age the Veilguard and Baldur's Gate 3 from last year, but here we have Slay the Spire 2. Admittedly, the game looks to actually play more like Magic the Gathering, but the D&D influence is still definitely there. I think I vaguely remember the first Slay the Spire, but I never played it, and while I'm not the biggest fan of the art direction here, the game does at least look mildly interesting. Early access comes sometime next year. And then right after, they hit us with another award for the best VR/AR game, which went to Batman Arkham Shadow, pretty unsurprisingly. Of course, being bundled with the MetaQuest 3S increased the chances of people even giving this game a try, but the fact that it's a Batman game set in the Arkham universe definitely helped the matter. I'm sure fans of the Arkham series who don't even really like VR decided to snatch this one. It's unfortunate that there really weren't any other crazy contenders on the leaderboard this year, but at the same time, I'm at least glad that the VR space is seeing some more serious investment by larger games and larger names. After that, we had a short dip into an eco-activist segment. Laura Carter, the CEO and founder of TreesPlease Games, shared her segment, wherein she essentially informed us that her game's studio's income has been going towards a very noble cause to help instigate tree growth and forest repopulation. A very positive and influential movement that's not really that easy to do for an indie game company. More impressive to know that the relatively small player base has contributed 1.6 million trees to be replanted is quite astonishing. I look forward to the cause this studio intends to continue. Well, then we got hit with a new DLC for Dave the Diver in the Jungle. This has been one of the more well-known indie games in the last year or so, and it seems like it's garnered enough attention to warrant more content. I've never personally touched the game, but I have heard some good things about it, so maybe I'll do a little more research into it. Fans can expect this in late 2025. Then we got hit with a relatively impactful announcement. The creators of the Deus Ex series are bringing us a brand new IP, Thick as Thieves, a sneak thief adventure set in what seems to be a cross between 1960s London and steampunk. It's shaping up to look like a tense, mildly action-packed ride with a cast of interesting and relatively unique characters, all with their own powers and abilities that your player characters, seemingly a normal thief, have to contend with. This is quite the departure from Deus Ex, so I'm quite interested to see what will come of this game. We have no information on whether the game is going to be a live service or a player versus CPU experience, but if they're going the full multiplayer route with this game is about to have friend groups going crazy, snagging items from one another and all kinds of shenanigans. The game can be wishlisted now on everything except the Nintendo Switch. As soon as that ended, we got the esports categories out of the way. The best esports game went to League of Legends, unsurprisingly, but Arcane definitely helped this time. The best esports athlete went to Faker, who I've since learned is actually insanely good at League of Legends. Apparently. The best esports team went to T1. I'm not even gonna hold you, I didn't care to look up this team at all. But if it turns out T1 is just more League of Legends, I guess I can't really argue. Alright, so then we got Bandai Namco revealing this strange new game. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you, this is Pac-Man, but in a new Metroidvania style of gameplay. With this mysterious hooded figure traversing this unknown and frankly quite dank new world, they have all these new monsters and eldritch abominations that the mysterious hooded guy and fucking Pac-Man have to defeat. This is one damn unique way to make Pac-Man more mature and serious. I'm not entirely sure what to think about this game. Of course, being a casual Metroidvania fan, this is at least tickling that side of my brain, but otherwise I have no idea whether I should be excited or cautious of this one. Shadow Labyrinth apparently is set to release sometime next year for everything, so I don't know, I guess I'll have to wait and see. Then we got a strange, yet cute, announcement for Steel Paws, developed by the same creators of Shenmue and Virtua Fighter, except this one is a Netflix game exclusive. I completely forgot Netflix even had a games section, much less that people still cared to develop games for it. We know absolutely nothing about this game, so keep in touch. Then we got the announcement for Games for Impact, which went to Neva. I remember this game at the Summer Games Fest where it was announced. It's actually quite rare for a game released less than half a year ago to achieve this award, so I'm actually quite proud of this little game. Its art direction was masterful, and with themes that tackle the difficulty of parenthood and climate change simultaneously, it's quite an impactful, get it, name that actually speaks now more than ever. Kudos to Neva. Then we got another cozy game. Like I said, this genre is exploding this year, and it's only being furthered by the announcement of Tales of the Shire. They got you skipping and frolicking in the fields, taking in the atmosphere of the marketplace and the gardens. I mean, what can I say? Most cozy games follow a very simple premise, and this looks like the ultimate snuggle up, grab your cup of tea, and sit under your blanket kind of game. And luckily, this will release on everything March 25th. Then came the very interesting trailer for Stalcraft X Operations, which looks to be a hybrid between a team shooter and strategy game where you and your squad of 3 roll out and take down different monsters on your elevator ride down to the depths. I don't know much about it, but it looks like it would actually be really fun with a small group of friends. Looking forward to this one next year. Instantly after, we got the Midnight Murder Club. Quite honestly, though this looks cool, I couldn't figure out what it was. I have no idea if this is a player versus CPU experience, or a PvP shooter, or even a PvP prop hunt. I mean, based on the little trailer with the players sounding like they were having a good time, it seems like it would be an interesting thing to try out at the very least. The game is looking like it'll be a cross-play experience, and the beta is available now on PlayStation and Steam. The next award given out was for the innovation in accessibility, which went to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, I know some of y'all remember me hyping up Prince of Persia last year, but to be quite honest, I have no idea of what they implemented to make the game more accessible this year. I know last year's award winner for this game went to Forza, who somehow managed to make racing possible for even the totally blind, which I'm still not sure how on earth they did. Prince of Persia must have done something to win out over everything else here, which, even if I never figure it out, it's great to see action-adventure platformers make this scene much more accessible to all audiences. Now we move on to Terraria. No, this is Terraria. Okay, it's actually still Terraria. Alright, and that is definitely one way to spell Terraria. Anyways, next up was the Best Family Game Award. Yeah, straight into it, which went to Astrobot. I know most of you probably don't know my stance for this Game Awards, but I've been repping Astrobot ever since it was announced. I played Astro's Playroom, which was natively downloaded to the PlayStation 5 when I first got the console, and absolutely loved my time. After watching people play this game and seeing the unanimous reviews all across social media, I figured this would at least get something here at the Game Awards. It had all of social media shackled for 2 straight weeks. People unlocking old memories with the references and Astrobot's skins. Really, this game is an homage to PlayStation's history, and really gaming history as a whole post 3D platformer. Congrats! Next, we got the worldwide announcement of the next biggest soccer game of the next decade, Rematch. From the creators of Shifu, the well-regarded and critically acclaimed player versus CPU fighting experience, they decided to put those refined controls to use in soccer. It even features some nods to Rocket League, in the sense that you can strategically use the barrier of the field to bounce trick shots and land some incredible game-winning points. That, on top of some of the locations and backgrounds we're seeing here, makes me think this might just be the next big esport for the next few years, like how Rocket League was for the mid-2010s. The last big announcement showed us an incredible CGI and gameplay trailer for Solasta 2. And as you can see, this is already going to be the next biggest thing for Dungeons & Dragons enjoyers. It's what looks to be an open-world RPG where you rely on team mechanics and magic to traverse the world and fend off against these seemingly undead rock monsters. I've personally never heard of the Solasta series, but given its inclusion in the awards ceremony this year, it's clear that this has gotta be something huge. In fact, they even announced a free demo coming sometime soon, as well as early access to the full game sometime next year. Looks like this game will only be available on Steam though. And that concluded the opening act. It's time we move on to the main event now. And they started off strong, bringing out the father of the PlayStation for the 30th anniversary of PlayStation as a brand, Ken Kutanami.
Oh good! Can you hear this? Boo!
Yeah, please wrap it up!
Nah, they actually did Jeff Keighley dirty. But to be honest, this was kinda deserved. If you remember me covering it last year, the Game Awards was infamously known for pushing people off the stage if they took longer than 30 seconds to thank their supporters and congratulate their teams. This is a long-standing joke of 3 years now, first starting with Christopher Judge, who took 8 minutes to congratulate his fellow actors and shared a story about him getting to where he is now, which admittedly was quite long. Then the following year, the Game Awards decided to hyper-fixate on never letting that happen by hard locking each acceptance to around a minute max. And now Jeff Keighley is highlighting some major accolades in the past year, and it takes him a couple minutes to get through all of what he wants to say, and so these guys chime in and cut him off just like how they did to everyone else last year. This joke has officially come full circle again, and if you haven't been following along, this is something you might have missed. Right after, they got Todd Howard, Troy Baker, and fucking Indiana Jones himself, Harrison Ford, to come and present the award for the best performance of the year. And to be quite honest, this is one of the only times he looks happy to be out of the house, and he sounds just a little intoxicated.
While you're on your feet,
Let's give a big round of applause to these two guys for the great circle.
Look, I'm not one to judge or say what exactly happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if Harrison Ford really didn't want to be there and then decided to suck it up and have a cup or two of champagne in the back before coming on stage. The man has acted his heart out, lived his life, and just wants to be done with the publicity, I'm sure. Or maybe he actually was excited and overdid it in the back. Or maybe Harrison Ford just always sounded like that and I missed it. Either way, the Best Performance Award went to Melina Juergens, who was the star actor in Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. If you remember, this was announced last year at the Game Awards, and I commented how it seemed like a decent psychological horror game, with some action elements indicative of God of War or maybe Resident Evil. And while I've still yet to play it or really check it out, I think at least based on last year's trailer that this was a genuinely decent pick. I know some of you Silent Hill fans are groveling over this one though, especially since she also won Best Performance way back in 2017 for the first Hellblade also. We then got one of the most highly rendered CGI trailers of this presentation for The Witcher 4? Where Ciri is the next mainline Witcher. CD Projekt Red is back, fresh off the continued financial and critical success of Cyberpunk 2077 to bring us back to the world of The Witcher. While I've never sat down to play or watch anything about the Witcher series, I recognize this one as one of the most incredible announcements of the decade. This is on par with the return of Kratos after 8 years of radio silence when God of War for the PlayStation 4 released. This is going to be a game that will shape the internet for at least 3 straight years, just like Cyberpunk and just like The Last Witcher. Right after back-to-back haymakers, they announced the brand new Elden Ring Nightrein, which seems to be a brand new story with all new enemies, but with the same old Soulsborne energy. Seems as though the Elden Ring team had so many ideas in their stock that they couldn't just settle on one of the largest DLC releases for their first game. They had to go ahead and start developing on the next installment too. This is really exciting for the Elden Ring and Soulsborne fans out there because this basically shows that you will have consistent back-to-back enjoyment of some of the most difficult gameplay experiences, from normal Elden Ring to Shadow of the Erdtree and now to Nightrein. And Nightrein is specifically designed for co-op, meaning your friends now no longer have an excuse not to play alongside you and share the rage and struggle of trying to face against bosses way more powerful than you. These devs are cooking, and the kitchen is staying open. Then the Best Action Award went, unsurprisingly, to Black Myth Wukong. Now, I say unsurprisingly, but this year had a bunch of heavy hitters in terms of action games. Helldivers took the entire internet by storm for several months, showing the world why space hyper-democracy rules, and then other incredible games like Call of Duty and Stellar Blade made their rounds throughout the months as well. But Black Myth Wukong was heavily anticipated since last year and released in the apex of Soulsborne games, right after Elden Ring got its DLC. On top of being a refreshing departure from the heavy Western influence of Elden Ring and providing a new land to explore, it also had which just obviously made it better. Congratulations all around. Immediately after, Epic Games showed us a teaser for what seems to be a game set in some type of dystopian future. We don't really have much to go off based on this trailer, except a mild bit of platforming. Considering this was developed by the creator of Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, I expect this game to be big, bold, and cinematic when it releases. But this was, by all counts, a pretty minuscule taste of what they might be cooking. The project is still in early development and has no name at the moment, let alone a release date. We'll just have to keep our eyes peeled for further information in future presentations. After that, they paid homage to the upcoming Civilization 7 with a great live performance by the Game Awards Orchestra. Just building hype is all. I gotta respect it, but they don't really show off my dog, Mr. I Play Everything Cool, but he'll come back around at the end. The next announcement was for The Outer Worlds 2, which brings its classic retro-futuristic look indicative of Fallout and Star Wars which makes sense. It was the same people who developed those games making this one. In all seriousness, this trailer makes the game look extremely fun and insanely beautiful in its own stylistic way. I've never personally touched the Outer Worlds, but I am impressed by what they showed off in this trailer. That said, it definitely was made more for the fans of the first game than it was to reel in newcomers, but I can definitely respect that. The Outer Worlds 2 releases on everything, of course, except the Switch. Then, Joseph Fares, the creative mind behind It Takes Two, stepped out on stage and revealed basically a spiritual successor, Split Fiction, wherein you take control of either Mio or Zoe. Both are fiction writers that either like to write their stories about fantasy or science fiction. With those mindsets, they are thrust into one another's respective worlds where they have to multitask to complete each area, either taking the science fiction half or the fantasy half. They're basically put into the Matrix by some big dream corpa, and the corpos don't want to let them out, so they have to escape back to reality through the worlds they created. Some worlds you'll hatch and evolve dragons to ride, others you'll just straight up become Samus with the morph ball. They even have you turning into pigs and fucking sausages. And just like It Takes Two, they're making it so only one person has to own the game for both of them to play, which means this makes the ultimate best friends or couples game. This game will apparently release in early 2025, so be on the lookout. Then the Game Awards announced a brand new award that they're going to start giving out called the Game Changer Award. It's a special kind of award that goes to people making meaningful change in the games industry. I know that's kind of vague, so bear with me for a second. Amir Satvat was awarded this because he noticed the enormous amount of game development job layoffs since the early 2020s. If you guys have been following my channel for a bit now, you'll know I've covered that multiple studios have had to let game developers go in massive waves. Riot, Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, and so many more have been firing good workers either to cut costs or to introduce AI into the workflow, which has rendered several positions obsolete. The layoffs are the #1 contributing factors to why there are so many indie game studios right now. Amir Satvat noticed this deficit in the industry and decided to make not only a video series on YouTube about how to stay strong and find jobs in the industry in light of the layoffs, but also compiled an entire Excel spreadsheet of people who were displaced by the layoffs and needed work. And though in the grand scheme of things, the impact hasn't been something to immediately put every displaced worker back into a job, he has directly, I have to emphasize, he has directly helped over 3,000 people find jobs in the industry they love, and that has to be commended. Amir even got a standing ovation from the entire crowd, as he should. He is the wizard behind the drapes for all of this, the one guy you've never heard of directly trying to make sure people in this industry have somewhere to be, and you have to respect him for that. Immediately after, they showed us more mecha No, actually, this one's a new mecha game, Steel Hunters, which just announced their PC beta open until Christmas Eve. So, probably closed by the time you'll all be seeing this. It's a fantastic looking game that brings a very similar energy to Transformers and Gundam, just like Mecha Break. What else can I say? I like big robots, and big robots go boom. Then we got the announcement of the relatively calming yet somber game Blackfrost, The Long Dark 2. I have no idea what this game is about, truthfully. It seems like a survival game set in a nuclear winter event where people have to find resources and fend for themselves amongst the ever-growing hostile environment. There isn't really too much to absorb here, and we won't get to really play it until well into 2026. Here we go. We finally got the announcement of a brand new trailer for Borderlands 4. The Borderlands series has been among the best series to release for Xbox and PlayStation alike, and has been at the forefront of style, story, and first-person action. And this trailer just shows us more of what we have already come to expect from the series. And this time, we're going to war. We've got our squad of 4, our awesome weapons, some familiar and some brand new, and our incredible new environments and enemies, some definitely more intimidating than others. And then,
on this, my sword I swear.
oh shit, here's our first true DLC character for Tekken 8. And I'm sure, just like Noctis, he's going to be annoying as all hell. We got Clive Rosfield from Final Fantasy 16 joining the roster. And I just know most of you degenerate ass niggas were hoping for a special, particular, certain someone to show up on the roster. I see you niggas. Personally, I welcome all Final Fantasy crossovers into the game. None of you niggas finna beat my Raven, so either way, another character joins, another nigga for me to send 6 feet deep. Then they did a couple rapid fire awards announcements. The most anticipated game for this year obviously went to GTA 6, as if it was going to be anybody else. Nobody else stood a chance. Niggas broke the internet when they leaked the trailer. The best multiplayer game went to Helldivers 2 because democracy and multiplayer kind of go hand in hand. And Helldivers obviously had the world in shackles when it released. The best community support went to Baldur's Gate 3. Relatively no surprise there. D&D fans are obviously going to band together. That's literally the whole name of the game. Best art direction went to Metaphor Refantasio. If it's one thing Persona fans speak loudly about, it's their style and art direction, which, of course, carries over into Metaphor. Then they showed us a brand new movement shooter, Splitgate 2. This one comes as a surprise. Movement shooters have been phasing out in exchange for team shooters, such as Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. The last game we got that was kinda like a movement shooter that I can think of was The Finals, but even then it technically doesn't count. The last true mainline, well-recognized movement shooter before that was Splatoon 3. Movement shooters like this prioritize fast-paced action and less room-to-room or move-the-payload type objectives. This shooter, set in a virtual world, blends elements of Portal with the arena style, similar to the Finals. And considering that 2 at the end of the title, this isn't even the first game in the series. Maybe I'll check out the last entry and use that in combination with whatever new trailers we should be expecting in the next year to fully formulate my opinion. But in all honesty, this game looks dope as hell. Then we got
All my friends are heathens, take it slow.
In all seriousness, this was a great tribute to Season 2 of Arcane, which was quite a wild ride. Definitely a must-watch, even if you don't give a fuck about League of Legends. They also announced... Huh? Virtua Fighter is making a comeback? For those of you unaware, Virtua Fighter can be considered the grandfather of 3D fighters, like Tekken and Soul Calibur. It's what started the genre way back in the late 90s and early 2000s, just before the first Tekken. This is quite an interesting announcement, but it makes sense. Sega did say they were trying to make meaningful comebacks for fan-favorite series, which I guess included this, so hey, honestly, I'm all here for it. Following up, they brought us back to 1940s Japan with the action-packed, bloody, and definitely not Yakuza at first sight, Project Century. Makes sense, given it's the same studio that developed the Like a Dragon series. Honestly, not sure if our main guy here is empowered or just straight up angry. Niggas out here doing the most. Our next award was for the best game direction and was presented by Hideo Kojima himself. And he had the honor of giving Astrobot their second major W of the awards show. To be quite honest, this comes as little surprise, considering they were trying to make Astrobot an homage to the PlayStation's history. I think this was directed to suit a wide variety of audiences, which it successfully achieved. The next announcement brought us to the world of Turok Origins, a very interesting game with an emphasis on alien, prehistoric, tribal, cybernetic hybrid times. This aesthetic is looking like a mixture of Avatar and Horizon, which makes for honestly a refreshing idea in modern gaming. Ideas like this are what made the Horizon series so well appreciated, and especially considering there is an appreciation for indigenous culture in the character design and costumes, it seems like this is going to be a genuinely interesting game based on aesthetics alone. We then got a PSA from Super Earth announcing the arrival of the Omens of Tyranny major update. It's time to return to war out here because these motherfuckers took our home, abducted our people, and completely stripped them of their freedom. So, if you value democracy, it's time to squabble up. Speaking of returning to war, Warframe got its new update trailer. I remember talking about this game either back in the summer or exactly 1 year ago. Either way, this trailer gives us some new information to work with. It seems our main characters and major antagonists are stuck in a time loop, and everyone is trying to deal with how to escape, by whatever means necessary. There's been a considerable amount of hype surrounding this game, and I've intentionally kept away from trying to seek more information about this game to hopefully experience it when I get some more storage on my PlayStation. One of these days, I'll see what's been cooking. Then we got an announcement for a new update coming to PlagiarismWorld, this time featuring slightly less plagiarism than usual. The Feybreak update seems to want to focus more on the gunplay and actual player character attributes than the Pokemon themselves. In all honesty, not too bad for an announcement. That said, I also have no clue where we are in the lore or story, and I'm sure it'll remain a mystery to me. Then the developers of Shovel Knight, the very first game to win the category for Best Debut Indie Game, came out and announced this year's winner, Balatro. I'm not even gonna hold you, I have no idea what any of the games that were nominated were. I have never even heard of them until the category came up. Either way, congratulations to Balatro. Winning best out of a category that is currently extremely saturated with content is not easy, and especially in light of the game industry problems I pointed out earlier, this comes as doubly impressive with all that talent floating out there making their new indie studios. Ah, yes, the literal ghosts of Tsushima floating around the land of Onimusha, Way of the Sword. This is another one of those Dark Souls-like games about defeating enemies to empower yourself and then taking on bosses way more higher level than you, not unlike Black Myth Wukong. Since we've seen quite a few of these kinds of games this time around, I'm not gonna discount it and say it's not worth keeping an eye on, but it's one I can comfortably say is exactly what it looks like. We also got an update for the first Berserker Kazan, the dungeon crawler action RPG I remember vaguely talking about before, I think back in the Summer Game Fest. And, of course, this game is about the brutality of facing enemies head on, embodying what it's like to be him. We got a beautifully animated CGI trailer, ending with the release date of March 27th. If you want to embrace the inner barbarian, this game is probably going to be right up your alley. We then got Genshin Impact's cousin, Arad, Dungeon and Fighter. In all fairness, the trailer is very well animated, but it's so close to Genshin Impact that I thought I was legitimately watching a sequel to it the whole time. That said, I'm sure this game is going to be packed with unique and interesting takes on typical anime open-world action RPGs. We also got to see a brand new look at Dying Light the Beast, set to release in the summer of 2025. We got a small look back at Gamescom this year, but this is what we had all been looking for. We got the first-hand look at the action, the parkour, the gunplay, the brutality, and the main villain of the story all in one foul swoop. This trailer gives us really a glimpse of everything to expect without revealing too much at once. I'm quite excited to see what else comes. Then we got the next few award announcements rapid fire style. Best Action Adventure Game went to Astrobot, giving them their third W. Best RPG went to Persona 6, Metaphor ReFantasio, makes sense. Content Creator of the Year went to the biggest streamer on the list, Queso. Best Sports/Racing Game went to FC25, which makes complete sense when you realize it's the spiritual continuation of the FIFA series. Best Sim/Strategy Game went to Frostpunk 2, a game which I know next to nothing about.
They said I won't be nothing. Now they always say congratulations.
Then fucking Squid Game came and announced they're an actual Squid Game, Squid Game Unleashed, a Netflix game that has released by the time this video comes out. Really though, it's pretty much an ad for the second season of Squid Game. Honestly, not that I think the game is bad, but Squid Game already inspired major games like Fall Guys way back when. This, while not completely unnecessary, is definitely more for the advertisement than anything else at the moment. Then, the West Side OG, the Twitch Unk, Snoop Dogg himself walked out on stage clean as hell with his son to announce the best ongoing game, which went to Helldivers 2. And you might be inclined to think it's Fortnite with its constant updates, but you gotta understand, Helldivers was a fucking religious practice for the beginning half of this year. It wasn't just a game that got updated for a quick burst. This was a constant thing that you couldn't miss lest you let Super Earth fall from its democratic freedom. This game clearly deserved this win from the very beginning. After that, we got Stage Fright from the creators of Overcooked. From the looks of it, this is going to be another split co-op game, not too dissimilar from Split Fiction. Kind of funny that two games with a similar concept came up in the same major presentation. Seems like this game is going to focus more on haunted and spooky monsters and such, as opposed to one hardcore swing towards sci-fi or fantasy. That said, no gameplay, so I'm excited to see this concept come to fruition. Right after, we got the announcement of Game of Thrones, King's Road. Seems like we're taking some graphical style from Skyrim here. Honestly though, that's quite a compliment. While we don't get much in terms of gameplay, I'm sure this is going to be an extremely fun game with quite a few different weapon classes and fun combat. I don't know much about Game of Thrones, so I'm not even going to pretend to know these characters. I'm really just interested to see if this game will be some kind of spiritual Elder Scrolls, or if it's going to go in the complete opposite direction. Either way, I'm here for it, and I may even snag it eventually. Then they announced the Best Adaptation Award, and I'm not even going to hold you, there was no competition this year. It was either going to be Arcane or Fallout, and in both cases, our GOAT, Ella Purnell, was winning either way. I've barely started Fallout, but her character in that show is great so far, and she's actually breathed so much life into Jinx and Arcane. Of course, my bias was for Arcane, but in the end, Fallout grabbed the win, which also makes sense. Fallout released and had the internet in a chokehold. Either way, with both of these shows, you can't really lose. Both of them helped usher in new audiences to both respective series, so either way you look at it, it was a net win. Go watch both, that is in order, and I will not have it any other way. Right after, they gave us an actual trailer for Den of Wolves, a techno-thriller co-op heist FPS from the creators of the Payday series. I remember these guys from the last big presentation. It was either last year's Game Awards or the Summer Game Fest, but the teaser had me mildly intrigued. Seeing the gameplay and having played Payday 2, this is looking right up my alley. We already have been missing heist shooters recently, so seeing a return to that Payday form is actually quite refreshing. On top of that, having these new gadgets and doohickeys work alongside the players is something that interests me as well. All in all, this game has me impressed from this trailer and might be a legitimately fun co-op experience for myself and my friend group. Ah yes, Hoyoverse has to have their little section. They of course revealed a new character for Zenless Zone Zero, and then a new update for Honkai Star Rail. I mean, of course, in all fairness, both of these trailers really do look stunning, which has been consistent for Hoyoverse. That said, I'm not really seeing anything new, so weebs, eat your heart out. Khalid himself came out on stage to announce the Best Score and Music Award, which went to Final Fantasy, which actually surprised me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not upset about this win whatsoever. I love myself some good orchestral and orchestral rock, which makes up a majority of Final Fantasy's music as a series. But I was honestly thinking Stellar Blade was taking this one, which brought on a slew of artists in all genres. From orchestral to chill to rock to electronic. Really though, I gotta respect it. There's not many series that can dethrone Final Fantasy scores. They always make sure to put 110% into their music in every game. I just thought Stellar Blade stood a chance. Then they showed us a very small snippet of what's to come from Sega and Sonic Team. They're back on their racing shit, but this time apparently crossing worlds? I'm not entirely sure what that means. We already had the All-Stars Racing series from them, which gave us a handful of characters from multiple various Sega IPs, as well as tracks and music. I honestly have no clue what this title is supposed to mean. If they plan to do crossovers with their own IPs, then why not just go back to the All-Stars Racing title? Maybe this is going to be a true crossover with other non-Sega IPs, which would genuinely be a huge undertaking. The thing that confuses me is that Jeff Keighley actually got to play it, which means it's at least in a playable state, and they didn't give us even a trailer. Very strange indeed. Mafia is back with both cinematic and gameplay on Mafia: The Old Country. I've never touched a Mafia game before, but I always see trailers and snippets here and there on YouTube, and this series has some of the most acclaimed writing of any game of its kind. And from the looks of it, the action in this game gets to be pretty crazy. Do we even trust this main character? I mean, you could ask a lot of questions here, probably more educated ones than I ever could on this game, but nonetheless, a huge announcement for gaming as a whole. Then they hit us with another rapid-fire round of awards. The best indie game went to Balatro, which, based on what I have seen, is something like a card game. Quite interesting, but I haven't really seen anything about it. Balatro also took Best Mobile Game right after that, which of course makes sense. If it was an indie game and also a mobile game, then I suppose that makes the most sense. Best Audio Design went to Senua Saga Hellblade 2. I don't even blame them for this one. I heard that Mongolian throat singing in the trailers and got goosebumps. I can only imagine the other sounds they used for this one. The Player's Voice Award went to Black Myth Wukong, which actually also makes sense. This game was beloved by many fans, and it seems the developers are also listening to player input, which is insanely important for a game designed like Soulsborne games. There's a right way and a wrong way to make them. They then showed us a trailer for Infinity Nikki. Not gonna lie to you, I have no idea what this game is about. It looks like it's supposed to be a slice of life type of game with some platforming and dungeon completion ideas. I mean, graphically looks very good, and I was digging the trailer music, but otherwise, I can't put my finger on what this game is supposed to be. That's not to say it looks bad, or like it has no identity, just that it didn't really show us in the trailer what it was trying to be. If all that slice of life stuff is the main focus, then the platforming stuff threw me off. If it was supposed to be a platformer based around completing dungeons, then leading with slice of life was very confusing. If it's legitimately a combination of both, then I mean, I suppose that's cool as well, but it just didn't seem strong in both areas to warrant me checking it out personally. But hey nigga, you do you. Jesse, why are we at the Game Awards, Jesse? Headass and Laura Bailey waltzed out on to announce their collaboration game, Dispatch, where you work as a former superhero who was apparently stripped of his rank and reduced to a superhero dispatcher. Your objective is to send the right heroes to the right cases to take down the supervillains and monsters of the world, and it looks like you'll actually have to take a look at hero stats and send the right people to the right place, lest you get caught lacking and jeopardize the whole operation. Now, I'm not exactly sure if you're really doing that much multitasking, or if it's basically more or less like a visual novel. To be honest, I prefer this game to play like Papers, Please, as opposed to Phoenix Wright, but I suppose either makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Then they announced the best narrative, which went to Persona 6, Metaphor Refantasio. I mean, for being developed by the same people who developed the Persona series, it kinda makes sense. Now that said, I'm definitely not the guy to ask about what goes on in Metaphor. I've yet to pick up the game, and shut up! I know I've been saying this all damn video, but there's only so many games a nigga with a real main job can actually play. They got me working on Christmas Eve until 10 p.m. and I still got this video out for you niggas. Anyways, congrats to Metaphor. For our last major announcement, they brought out the big drums and the orchestra for this one. We got a live performance for the announcement of an Okami sequel in the works. This is quite a surprising announcement, as for the longest time, Okami was considered a one-and-done game. Okami, in case you're unaware, was a game in the late 2000s that focused on the wolf spirit of Amaterasu, the sun god, and centered around gameplay largely indicative of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. There were magical spells that you could use to drastically change or enhance aspects of Amaterasu, as well as amazing combat I've been following Okami loosely ever since I heard about it, and have actually been relatively interested in the game for quite some time, but just never got the chance to pick it up. Maybe this will give me an excuse. Except no, it's not the last major announcement, because they also revealed an absolutely stunning game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. And I do mean absolutely stunning. This was all captured in-engine, meaning the game should look exactly like this when it releases, at least the cutscene should. This is one of the few announcements this year that holds up graphically to the likes of Cyberpunk 2077 when it released. We're apparently in space looking for some kind of fugitive, and apparently this nigga is hard to track down and lives close to an area that is dangerous for even the most fearsome warriors and space goers. Bounty hunters have legitimately come up lost. I'm extremely excited to see what goes on here. I love space shit, I love future shit, and I love the art direction for this game so far. That's 3 wins, which means an instant cop from me, hoping to hear more from this game in the coming months. It better be good for a game in development since 2020, as well as a soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. And then they dropped the big one for this year, the Game of the Year. They brought out the full orchestra, and look, there's the guy! The dude who plays everything cool and unusual is back! They also got my nigga on the guitar over here. They showed out. After that amazing fanfare, they finally announced the 10th annual Game of the Year award for 2024, which went to Astrobot. And really, it's the most fitting game. Not only was Astrobot not DLC, but it was also the perfect homage to the PlayStation and all of its glory, while also showing love to all of the gaming community and being one of the most user-friendly experiences for gamers of all kinds. Really, when we think about what Astrobot represents, it's more than just a cool game or a nice package on top of some other cool game or some kind of PlayStation glazer. It's really a game developed out of love for gaming, and I could not be more happy that something so simple at first glance, yet so filled with detail and passion, won the 10th ever Game of the Year. The little game that could. The ultimate underdog. This will go down as a monumental footnote in all of gaming history. And, of course, that brings us to the end of this year. This has been the most eventful year for me on YouTube, or at least the most promising. I finally got to see my subscribers grow from nothing to 100, almost 100 subscribers, and I can't be more thankful than that. I mean, even if you're just popping in and this is the only video you'll ever watch on my channel. It's a gradual move, but at least we are moving, and I would say that's relatively impressive for somebody who's not really uploading all that consistently and has real work and school and all these other hobbies like music and YouTube and art to bounce between all the time. In 2025, I'm aiming for at least another 100 subscribers. I cannot promise that my upload frequency will ever get any higher than what it is right now, but I'm never going to abandon this channel, and I'm always going to keep working on it as a passion project out of love for just wanting to do YouTube. It's really just a whenever I can make stuff, I will kind of type of schedule. So if you care to join or hop on along for the ride, the button's right there. It really does help a lot more than you realize. And hopefully with enough people, I can move on from this mundane line of work into something that I'm a little bit more comfortable in. So yeah, I just have to say preemptively, I suppose, thank you for almost 100 subscribers for one of my more promising years being on the platform. But anyways, your boy on St. Nicholas gotta get back to delivering these presents. So I'ma catch y'all next year.
Ooh.